Welcome to The Other Side. Special guest tonight is Sergeant Mike Befford from the Spencer Police Department and special co-host Sharon Wood. Tonight we discuss opiates in our town and what we can do to fight it. Stay tuned. Guest tonight, Sergeant Michael Befford from the Spencer Police Department. And we also have Sharon Wood with us, who's going to share her story in battle with her daughter as far as opiates are concerned. Hopefully we're going to be able to get some information out of this and, maybe get this town up in arms and fighting another battle. So Sharon, if you want to discuss what you've gone through over the last 8 years.
Well, my daughter is 25 now, and she's an opiate addict. Her drug of choice at the moment is heroin. She didn't start out saying, I'm going to be a heroin addict when I grow up. She was in college, freshman year in college, and she fell at a party. And the doctor prescribed her some Percocets or Percodan, one of those. And she was taking those for the pain. And a so-called friend told her, well, this works much better if you crush them and snort them. So she did that, and that progressed from there. And with opiates, the more you do, the more you need to do, because you build up a tolerance for it. And she did just that, and they get to be expensive. The pills that she was doing, they're roughly $1 a milligram. So if they're doing a 5 milligram pill, it's a $5 pill. She got up to about 80 milligram pills, and she was doing a couple of those a day. That got to be very expensive, so she resorted to stealing, pawning my jewelry, taking things from family members and people that she didn't even know to support her habit. And that went on for a while, and she went through a couple of rehabs with the pills. I had sectioned her once, where you go before a judge and get them committed for 28 days. I think I did that twice to try to get her some help. And she'd do fine for a while, but the opiates, they work with your neurosystem, and it's a physical craving, a physical addiction, not just a mental. And
well, let's stop right there real quick. The 28 days in that section or whatever it was that you call it, how do they get through the 28 days?
They're sent to a detox facility where they use, they call them comfort drugs. They give them drugs for like the first 4 days, 5 days, when they're withdrawing from the opiates, because the withdrawal is so horrible that's why they keep doing it.
Okay.
They go through, they throw up, they sweat. It's like having a bad flu. Their body aches, they're anxious, they can't sit still, they can't eat. They're extremely sick when they withdraw from the opiates. Okay. So that's how they give them comfort meds in the beginning to get them through the withdrawal period. And they're in, they're monitored by healthcare professionals.
So where are you at now with your daughter as far as her
Well, about
recovery?
3 weeks ago, she overdosed on my living room floor on Saturday morning about 8:30. I was doing some work in my office, and my 12-year-old stepdaughter-to-be came in and told me that she'd fallen off a chair and was laying on the floor. So I went into the living room, and she was laying there, eyes wide open, not breathing, turning white, gray. And I saw the needle sticking out of her pants pocket. I knew what it was right away. So I called 911, and Karen Hackett, the dispatcher, kept me calm and through the CPR process until the police arrived. And it was about 3 minutes. They were really quick, the police and ambulance. And then they Narcaned her. They gave her a drug called Narcan, and it goes up their nose. And they gave her a couple of shots of that, and that takes the heroin or the opiates, and it takes it right away from the neurons in the brain, so they're completely sober in a matter of seconds. And so she lived, thank God. We saved her. And she's with us now. She went and stayed with some friends for a while to get out of town. And she's trying to get into a sober living facility, but there's no beds. You know, there's nowhere for her to go right now. She's on a waiting list for a couple of them in Worcester, hopefully for May 1st, so she can continue.
So obviously at home, you must be looking over your shoulder saying, you know, is she staying clean? Is she,
Oh, constantly.
you know? So
Every time
it's
she
a
leaves my
constant
sight,
battle.
I
Yeah.
wonder.
Where you going? Who you going to see?
Yeah, what's she doing? You know, she doesn't come home. If she's working, and you know she doesn't come home. You know, we worry. We sit up and worry. Where is she? What's she doing? It's a constant worry. It never goes away, ever.
Well, that's it's certainly a tough road to hoe, and you know, you must have the strength of Job because to
I
go
don't know. It
through
doesn't
that,
feel like it.
you know. But let's get to the problem itself. You've heard Sharon's story, Mike. What is your story as far as what's going on in this town? Do we have an opiate problem?
Every community has. I mean, it's to the point where Governor Patrick declared it a state of emergency back in 2014 and immersed money into the into treatment programs and to try and get a hold of this. And prior to coming into the meeting, doing a little research, it's just not the United States. This is a worldwide problem, is the opiates. And I wish there was a magic wand to wave to fix, but it's going to a long road ahead of all of us, you know, as parents and myself as a police officer.
You're seeing more heroin use throughout let's focus on our community now. Are you seeing more heroin use in our community now compared to? I'm not sure how long you've been in.
I've been with the department since '98, and I mean, even back in '98, we could see the heroin use. But yes, there is more of a progression that we are seeing, and I attribute a lot to what Sharon said was starting off on the opiate-based pain medications, and then forming the addiction, and then turning to the heroin.
So there's definitely a track record of the pills,
Almost definitely.
the pain pills, and going towards the
Right.
heroin when the pain pills don't either A, aren't available, or B, no longer have any effect on them. Is that
And they're too expensive.
and they're too expensive?
You know, they can spend $80 a pill or $10 for a bag of heroin. You know, that's the, and heroin is so readily available. They can find it anywhere.
Well, that was my next question. Do you see an increase in winter versus summer use? In other words, is it because everybody's inside in the wintertime, there's nothing to do, or does it stay pretty steady throughout all seasons?
It's pretty steady, but I guess the quality of life for us citizens comes up in the springtime. Like we were talking beforehand, we've had a spike now that the snow's melting of the needles on the roadside. I would say we're probably getting 10 to 12 needles turned in a week, to where an officer has to go out, pick up the needles, bring them into the station, and dispose of them. We're also finding the empty baggies, so it's telling me that the person's, you know, using that area where we're finding it, and they're just leaving their trash behind.
Well, I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't there some cities or states that have a needle program where they have facilities where you can actually drop them off? Are there
Right, like an exchange program?
Not
or
necessarily. Well, maybe an exchange program, but at least be able for these people to at least be able to, instead of throwing them on the ground, drop them off somewhere, and you don't have to worry about people taking your picture or anything like that.
I believe our Board of Health does take them.
Leicester Police Department takes them
Yeah.
right there. In
We
the lobby.
also have a canister in
Canister.
our lobby
That's-
to come in, no questions asked, get rid of your needles. But my feeling is, why would they want to walk into the
That's-
Spencer Police Department?
Let me
Just
take a
throw 'em
picture.
on the
Let
road.
me take a
Even
picture.
though, you know, there's nothing there, they don't have to give identification or anything. but still.
completely anonymous.
Correct.
If they want to do that.
Correct.
Wow. So you don't see it. So it's a season. It's definitely not seasonal. It's year round use.
Yeah.
The outbreak of the heroin is based upon a couple of things. Cost as far as the pills are concerned, correct?
Correct.
Easeability Is a lot of it coming in through Worcester? Do you know? I mean, is it coming from all over the place?
It's coming from different areas. You know, a lot from Worcester. You know, we get some reports from South County. But there's-
obviously, you can't get into a lot of stuff, but I didn't.
Right.
You know, is it coming from New York or
I mean, I would assume eventually, it starts in a larger metropolitan area, comes up, gets broken down, gets sent back out, gets broken down, and just works its way up the ladder or down the ladder out to the users.
Are you guys finding this stuff cut with? You were talking about bath salts or something before.
There's an ingredient or a new drug, fentanyl, that's out now, and they call it Flocka, is a street name for it, and it's made from the same chemical that bath salts are made of, and it's 50% more toxic than heroin, and they're cutting heroin with it now.
Yeah.
And they don't tell the addicts that they're cutting with it, and that's why I think you see the big spike in
I was going to
deaths
say,
and
is
overdoses.
that why? I know in Worcester there was like one after the other as far as overdose deaths are concerned.
Well, the problem with the heroin is the user doesn't know the strength of it.
Right.
You know, it's not like it's an abuse of a prescription medicine, whether it's an 80 milligram or 20 milligram, you don't know how strong that is because when the dealer gets it, they cut it down, whether they're using the fentanyl or powdered milk, what have you, that affects how the drug is going to
Affect
act
that
the
person.
body too.
So it's pretty much a crapshoot when they put whatever in that needle. They have no idea.
No idea. None.
Man, talk about Russian roulette.
Yeah.
Huh?
Right.
That's crazy. So the cheapness of it. Why is it so cheap? Any idea why is this? Why can you get so much for? Sharon, how much is it? Can you get a couple days use out of a bag or something? I'm not sure how.
I don't think so. I don't know that much about what comes in. I've never seen it. I don't know what it even looks like, in person. But, from what I see, it's a very cheap high. It's $10 or $15 versus 80 or 100 for the high. So
obviously there's a limit on its effectiveness. So
Right.
any idea? A couple hours?
Well, they traditionally they come in like a half a gram.
Okay.
So typical that's one, maybe two uses depending on how long the person's into their addiction. So and then from there they put it into packages of 10 and then they put them into bricks of 550. So that's how they sell them, the bindle, the bundle, and then the brick.
So a package of 10, that's 10 packages of 2. Is that what that would be?
Up to two
Up to 2.
doses, or minimal 10 doses.
So maybe, if somebody's, taking this stuff 4 times a day, that's not a whole long of a shelf life there. That's a
Right.
pretty much,
Right.
I got to go find some more before I run out type of thing.
Correct.
Man, oh man.
and they do it daily when they're really into their addiction.
Yeah.
They it becomes a daily thing, and it becomes all they think about. All they think about.
And when say something, we bring in somebody under arrest for a charge or something, you talk to these people and you ask them, what you have, how many bags a day. I've heard up where 8 bags a day.
8 bags a day.
I heard some say 2 bags a day. But it's still they know what they need each day to get them.
And are these
Wow.
functioning people in public? Are these functioning?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could be working at the grocery store or,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
the gas station.
Yep.
That's just to make them feel normal, so they don't get sick. It's all about not getting sick.
So it's about keeping that high so you don't come down, that type of thing.
So you don't withdraw from the opiates.
So
because
is the
withdrawal
is the
so bad.
withdrawal worse than the actual high?
Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. When we say if we have someone under arrest and they're there for the weekend, we have to pay a lot of attention to them as they're going through their withdrawals and that. And sometimes they have to go to the hospital to get, something to get them through till Monday morning to go to court. Or other than that, they've got to suck it up and trying
cold turkey.
It's
cold
bad.
turkey. Yeah.
Wow, that's I didn't realize the extent of the high and the coming off the high were so drastic.
They wish
know?
they were dead. You know, I've been with my daughter a couple times when she's withdrawn from it with me for the weekend, and they just want to die, and that's, you know, what she's told me. I'd rather be dead than withdraw because they're so sick. Their whole body aches. It's like a bone ache, and they're vomiting and they're sweating and they're shaking and their anxiety is like out of control, and they just want to like jump out of their skin.
How does that? Does the Narcan just take them completely out of that? I know she overdosed, and I know she got a couple shots of Narcan, but did that literally wake her up, like
Yeah,
just like that?
sits right up. Their eyes get really big, and they're like this.
And what did she say? Did she even realize that what had happened?
Yeah. She looked around, you know, we were all in the room, in the living room, and she knew. But they took her to the hospital. They kept her there for a few hours, and then they just release them. And that's a problem. They're releasing these people, these kids, our kids, and there's no follow-up. And I don't know if you know about the new law that's coming into effect is in October. Governor Baker just signed a law that anytime someone's taken to a hospital or, you know, with the police and they overdose, it's an automatic 30 days in a program.
Do we have enough space?
No.
So you enact something that you can't really. Well,
Well-
number one, how do you pay for it? You know,
Right.
and I'm not saying it's a bad idea. This comes down, this is the old. Well, we have a great idea, but
How are we going to pay for it?
you know, we have a great idea, but we don't have enough beds. We have a great idea, and is it an automatic 30 days? And if you don't stay there, do you go to jail?
Yeah, I'll have to research that because usually once it clears, you know, the governor signs it, then there's the certain a wait time before it goes into effect, and then they'll start sending it out to us.
I
And
think it's October is the effective date. But the problem, like you said, there's not enough beds. There's not enough detox beds, and there's not enough beds for after, like a detox is like 4 or 5 days. And then after that, they need to go into a sober facility, some sort of halfway house or you know, and they're all different levels of strictness and rules, each house. But if, like when I sectioned my daughter, if you section someone, which means you go before the judge and get them in a facility for 28 days or 30 days, if there's nothing available, they take you to jail. And you know, my daughter would have gone to Framingham if there was no Framingham
place to go.
MCI.
Yeah.
If there's no beds available in a facility, and they detox right there in jail, and you stay there until they can get you in a facility.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the age of what the people that are using and stuff. The American Journal for the American Medical Association. I got a little bit of info on that. 50 years ago, the typical user was 16 years old, a 16-year-old man, low-income neighborhood. Now, 50 years later, that was an article that was research 50 years ago. Now, typical addict starts using at the age of 23. Affluent suburbs and unwittingly led to heroin through painkillers prescribed by his or her doctor. So we're back to that again. But what do you typically see as the age of maybe the first time you see somebody come in? Because there's got to be a track record of people in the town that maybe you see them at, you know, a junior in high school, going up to a, or
yeah, on my experience, I would say 17, maybe the youngest that I've experienced, and then as you go a little older, the more. I did a little research in our in-house computer, and our average age of overdoses is 33.
Wow.
Is 33. With the youngest being 19 and the oldest being 57.
wow.
So,
Offhand, about how many of these do we get a year? Any idea?
let's see. For 2014, we had 16, one death, and then this year, up until end of March, we've had 8. So we're on track to be higher this year.
than last year. And that seems to be the same record. That seems to be the same case as what's happened throughout the United States. A couple of years ago, there was 5,900 overdose deaths.
Yep.
And now it's up over 8,000
Yeah.
for this year. So, I'm sorry, that wasn't this year alone. That was 2014. So it was 2012, 2014. I didn't get the records for the first quarter of this year.
I do have a number here that Governor Patrick put out when he declared the emergency from 2000 to 2012. There was a 90% increase in opiate overdoses in Massachusetts. And then the U.S. Department of Health and Services has similar numbers.
I know I asked you before we started a drug tip hotline, but we don't have that in the town.
Yeah, you know what? It became a cost to us, so we have our regular phone number. People can call us anonymously. They can either just leave a message, or if they want a return call from myself or the detective, you can leave a message, and we're sure to get back to you on that. Because, our community is one of our tools that we use in our investigative means, and the public's an extra set of eyes for us.
So did everybody hear that? So pick up the phone, make a telephone call if you see any suspicious activity, or if you have somebody or a report of any type of drug use or paraphernalia or whatever. It's all anonymous. Nobody's going to call you and say, "Oh, how did you know that?" It's all anonymous. The only way we can get rid of this stuff is with everybody's help.
And his parents be diligent.
Well,
and
that
know
was
what to look
and
for.
yeah, and that was while we're on the tip hotline thing, the DARE program. I know that was big for a long time. Obviously, that was federally or state funded.
Both.
Okay.
Both. And unfortunately, the numbers dried up. At one point, we had 6 DARE officers here in town. We were immersed pretty good in the schools. The funding just started to dry up. DARE America changed the curriculum a little bit, so all us officers would have had to go back and get retrained. And it just became a problem with taking so many, just an officer off the street to put them into the schools. Me personally, we belong into the schools. I think I can speak for the chief. He believes, we belong in the schools, but just like the rest of the town, we face our cuts in that, and we've got our.
Was there a with the DARE program? You've been involved in town for a long time. So with the DARE program, with and without it, is there a difference?
When I started DARE with my previous department, I guess I always held to the tune that if I prevented one kid each year from turning towards drugs, I did my job. We'd like to have it be the perfect thing, as the whole graduating 6th grade class never use drugs. We know that's not going to happen. Over the years, I've seen my DARE students come into the booking room. I've seen them get arrested. I've seen them at court, and I've seen them come in with addictions.
You were in that class. What are you doing?
And my daughter was in his class.
And she was a great student. I remember we talked about this before, and she was, got an award for a essay that the students were to do. You can't plan the future. One aspect of DARE that I thought was important too is they had a parent program, and I did run it here in town a couple times, and it was more of parents getting together and talking and coming up with game plans, talking about similar stories and that. And it would be nice to, maybe someday be at the level that we can start having.
Do you guys go into the schools at all anymore?
Other than getting a call for service up there, no.
That's a shame.
What's the average? So let's get back to the schools for a second. So what would be the normal average school age where you guys would go in and start talking to kids?
I'll stick around DARE because that's the known program out there. That was based mainly on 5th and 6th graders. It was a 13-week program. You went in, you talked about a different topic each week, and there'd be a graduation at the end and all that. But prior to that, there was also DARE for the, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. You just, at the kindergarten level, you talk about more safety, personal safety, and as they got older, you would start, giving, right decisions, wrong decisions, and then once you got into the 5th and 6th grade, you would discuss and talk about, the so-called gateway drugs, which I think has evolved over the years. It's no longer the marijuana, the tobacco, and the alcohol. You're talking, people, the opiates. They're getting a sports injury, and next thing you know, they're developing an addiction and now turn into the heroin. It's supercharged.
Do you find any relationship between parents and kids? Do you find any of the kids leading the same path as their parents? Let's say if you know a known opiate user, do you find that family kind of turns in that direction as well?
I don't have any firsthand on that, but I think that's possible. What they're seeing and growing up is they're believing that that's the right behavior.
You learn what you live, I guess,
Right.
is really what I was kind of,
Right.
I didn't know if there was the same path as far as, oh look, my mom,
But on
my
the
mom and dad do it.
Well, that's
where
it's
the
gotta
kids
be good
get
for
them.
them. Yeah.
That's where they get the drugs. A lot of them, they steal them from the parents' medicine cabinet. A parent would have an injury and they'd have some perks laying around in the cabinet, not thinking about it, and a lot of times that's the first introduction is in the parents' medicine cabinet. So parents should throw out or take any pills that they're not using down to the police department and get rid of them or flush them down the toilet. Don't leave them around for the kids to find and experiment with, because they will. They certainly will.
Is the DARE program completely gone throughout the United States, or is it
No,
just,
it's still active.
It's still active.
Yep.
It's just a matter of supplemental income
Funding
I
and that,
guess.
yeah. I think if you look, out of other states, either their school departments are statewide are solvent enough that they have the funding to bring in a school resource officer, and the school resource officer instructs the DARE, or they have private donations come in that allow for the curriculum to be dispersed.
I wonder if this is something that we can incorporate with a PTO. We have no real PTO group in this school district. None. Each school has their own, but we don't have like a
District-wide.
a district-wide parent-teacher organization. So I'm wondering if that could be one more thing that that parent-teacher organization, as well as academics, and being a go-between between parents and administration and stuff like that. If that isn't, I think it's important. I think some way, shape, or form, you got to get back into the schools and get those, at least the 5th and 6th graders. I mean,
Right.
We're talking a big transition change now here, that we have Maple Street closed, we have Lake Street closed. Now we have 5th, 6th, and 7th, and 8th graders going to Knox Trail, and then we have Wire Village becoming K through 4. So you get a pretty wide range of kids in that Knox Trail that we could grab now. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Those are 4 important years. I haven't had the drug talk with my son's in 5th grade. I have a 5th and a 3rd grader, but we haven't had that talk yet.
Right.
And not that I shield him, but he hangs around, and the parents that we hang around with all seem like good parents, and they all our kids are involved in sports and stuff like that. So, but that time's coming, obviously, but I think it would be important to get that back into the school system, without a doubt. Let's attack it at the base rather than waiting for it to come to the top and attacking it at the
Right.
top.
And when I did the DARE program, we talked about this. On drug awareness, we described it as a triangle, and on that triangle, obviously the police are on one side and the schools are on the other. But the base is the parents.
Right.
It comes down to us, to our kids, teaching them right and wrong. Letting them know it's okay to say no. Let them know that they might get offered to do something wrong, whether it's, try drugs or break windows in a house or break into a house, whatever it is, they might say no to this person. They might lose a friend. They've got to be prepared that, all right, well, that's a friend I don't want to have.
Well, I think with what's transpired over the last few months with the Hyder family and your family, I think it was a big awakening. You got two very young kids here that, who are good kids. I mean, Chris Hyder was
He's a good
He
kid.
was a good kid,
My daughter was a good kid.
And
So many of them.
Not what you would typically expect, your daughter included, from the normal drug addict. That
Right.
those two words. So I think it was a big eye-opening experience for some of the parents in this town, and that was the important aspect of having this show on. I wish I could have done it a little earlier, but schedules be what they may. This is a fight that's not going to go away easily.
No.
And I think reaching out to the parents, like we don't have enough to do, but I think reaching out to the parents, and we'll give them some information at the end of the show as far as websites and stuff. But I think what they need to know is what do we look for? What do parents look for? When you see that everybody's in denial. Oh, my kid would never do that.
And they say that, not my kid. And that's why I wanted to come here and put a face to the heroin addiction in this town, because it is your kid. It's my kid. It's your kid. It's your kid. It's everybody's kids. And it's not just the Hyder family, my family. I have friends, almost every friend of mine has someone in their family that's affected by this right now. When my daughter overdosed, I had friends that I haven't talked to since high school call me and say, my son, my daughter, my nephew, it shouldn't be swept under the carpet anymore. It's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. We need to save our kids. And we need to get together and save our kids.
So what do you guys see? And Mike, I'm not sure if what do you see first? What's some of the signs that parents, and I know you can also chime in on this too, but being a DARE officer and all of that stuff, was there key things that parents should look for?
I think first of all, we gotta, we know our kids, and if there's a change in their behavior, they're bringing bad marks home from school, they're hanging out with different kids now, money missing out of your wallet or your purse, or if by happen you have a prescription medication and, gee, I didn't think I was ready for a refill on that. And I mean, it's very simple to look at your prescription bottle and say, okay, I've got this many left that was filled on this day, and I know I take this. Oh, wait a minute here, I've got some, there's definitely some missing here. Whether it's a friend coming home and taking it, or the child. We know our kids. We know them better than anybody, and we've just got to stay open-minded.
So
to that.
I was going to say, don't put the blinders on.
Correct.
Don't
Right.
put the blinders on. Keep them open. I mean, those are some pretty obvious things, telltale signs to look for. So it's not like they're
It doesn't happen like that.
yeah.
You can look at the kids in the eyes too, and another addict showed me this. They call it, their eyes get pinned. They call it the black part of their eyes gets really, really tiny, like a pinprick, when they're under the influence of opiates. Like I can look in your eyes and they're fine. They're just like mine. When you can't see the black part of the eye, that's a giveaway.
Really.
And they get very, they also get very agitated, and they turn into like a monster, biting your head off, screaming at you, real short-tempered. That's part of a sign.
Did you
of
see
the
this
addiction.
progression as with your daughter as well? Was it as obvious back then as it is now?
Well, back then she was in college. When she first started, she didn't live with me.
Ah.
She was in an apartment,
Yep.
and she would come and see me. But I did eventually see all of these signs. The sleepiness, they don't want to get up out of bed. And sometimes you just say, well, that's a teenager, or that's the age, and she's working late at night. You make excuses for your kids. Oh, they're working late at night, that's why she's so tired in the morning. But it's not. They can't
Function.
They can't function.
So, again, hindsight being what it is, back then those were the signs, but you didn't really pay attention
I
to
didn't
them.
know. those are the signs. Trial by fire.
Right,
You know,
right.
after seeing all this and talking to other addicts, you know, that helped me in doing research. And I belong to a web page on Facebook, The Addict's Mom, TAM. And you know, every state has a chapter. And talking to other moms and other parents online, you know.
Do they have a Facebook page?
Yeah,
Anything like that?
TAM, The Addict's Mom.
TAM. All right. So what I'll do is I'll grab that page and I'll pin it to ours so that at least people can.
Well, you have to be invited to join it.
Okay.
It's kind of like a closed.
Okay.
So another addict, another mom, you know, that's how I got on it. Somebody's mom recommended me to it, but it's worldwide. You know, it's countrywide. It's all over. You know, every state has one.
Any idea? Are there any other people from Spencer in it? Do you know?
Yep.
No names, obviously.
Yeah, I have friends that are on the page.
That have gone through the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of friends. Like most of my friends, has somebody in their family right now that's addicted to opiates in one way or another. And I've had friends that have in Spencer, and I grew up in Spencer. You know, class of '78, and a lot of my, you know, some of my friends have lost children already, in this town, and quite a few of my friends have found their kids last week. I mean, yeah, just last week, a girl in Spencer that I went to school with found her son in the bathroom floor, needle in his arm. You know, it happens every day. It is truly an epidemic.
So the increase, and we'll get back to the increase is just they don't have anything else. It is no more pills. You know, obviously, is alcohol involved at all? Is part of this? Do you see is there an alcohol relationship?
Not really.
No.
No, they have their drug of choice. You know, obviously we have our people, you know, that abuse the alcohol, you know, the heroin, or you know, but heroin, it seems, is that's their crutch.
And that's where they stay.
Yeah, once they find that, that's their lover, their friend, their everything. It takes over their lives.
Do you see that some of these kids, I say kids because she's 25.
Yeah.
But,
Well, she's still my kid.
yeah. Well, I meant just age-wise, it sounds funny, 25. Do they have two separate sets of friends sometimes? Do they have here's my non-drug friends and here's my drug friends?
Oh yeah.
You know, and they can
Balance themselves
Can they
between
balance
both groups?
balance
Yeah,
themselves?
I
Do you
think
see
so.
that? That must be a hard thing to do. You must have your
Well, a drug addict is the sneakiest person you'll ever meet. They
well,
lie.
that's what I'm wondering. Do they do that?
Oh, they con you.
Do they do that? Do you keep that false front up, saying, "Oh no, these are all my friends," and you know, but they keep the other ones tucked off to the side. You know,
Right.
is that how you?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen, you know, the friends that she grew up with that don't use, that she still sees, and then the other friends that I don't see. I hear about them, but I don't see them. They're in Worcester or wherever, and yeah, so they do. It is a dual life sometimes that they lead.
So you,
But they're extremely good at manipulation and lying and conning you and telling you they're fine, and you believe them. You know,
it's because it's your child.
they're so believable.
Yeah.
You know, and you believe them because you want to, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, they're very tricky and very sneaky, and that's something parents need to.
Well, and
really be
that was
aware
going to
of.
lead me down. You know, we got into the discussion of what parents look for. So, what do we do after that? Let's say we find somebody. Let's say we get some of those signs. What do we do after? We call you and say, Mike, I need your help.
You can. We have parents bring their kids into the lobby and say, "Hey, can you talk to them about it?" Sure. No promises, but you know, and you give them the talk. You know, we have some officers that give a more stern. You know, where I try to be a little more, I guess, fatherly and talk about my experiences and stuff like that. When it gets into the opiate overdoses. Truly, it comes down to there's only two people that can help that person, either themselves or a judge. You know, Sharon talked a lot about a section That's a great tool for parents out there. We refer parents to that many times on that. What it is under Mass General Laws 123 Section 35A, you go in and you petition the court, that this person has an addiction, whether it's alcohol or drug dependency, and then what the judge does is they bring a doctor in, and we bring them to court, or the local police department brings them to court. It's nothing that we can hold them overnight. It's while the court's open, and then that doctor examines that person and says, yeah, there's an addiction here. And
They'll do that right at the courthouse?
Right at the courthouse.
Wow.
And we as police officers, we can do it. We've done it. But my experience shows the judge would rather see the parent in there or a family member filling it out, because that's who knows the person the best. We're going to go in and go on our experience. We dealt with this person on this day, this day, and this day. This is what we noticed and all that.
I'm guessing, and you've been in this for quite a long time, you probably see the hands going, I'm done. Do whatever you need to do. I don't want anything to do with it type of thing.
Yep.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there too.
Do you have anything in particular that you brought along that we could pass along?
I mean, I had a couple websites for some tools for parents. One great one out there is from the Drug Enforcement Administration. It's just DEA.gov. You go on there, you'll see a prevention tab. You can click on there. You can get descriptions of drugs, effects, and the list goes on and on. And then there's also the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, drugfree.org. Same thing, more tools for parents. Parenting's not easy, right? There's one day you're a couple and you have nothing, and the next day you have this child. There's no school to go to. It's every day is school.
Right. I'll be quite honest. I never realized the extent of what we have in this town, and I'm sure it's like this in a lot of towns.
It
but
is.
Because I live here, this is what I'm concerned about.
Sure.
The extent of the drug use that we have, and because we've talked to other people, and this was a couple years ago when we first started doing this show about needles, finding them, right down the street here on Maple Street, or what is that Maple Street?
Yeah.
Find them they're in my driveway, they're in my front
They're
lawn.
Yeah.
Find them at the bus stop, and never, again, not my child, but never. I didn't realize what the extent was until it starts to hit close to home, i.e. your daughter and Chris Hyder, because you can relate to those people, because I know you and I know the Hyders. But just to see what goes on in the town and where it's developed, do we have a lot of transients in this town where?
Our center of town, it changes in and out. We've got some apartments there in the center of town area. They're different faces pretty frequently.
Is there a track record with those apartments?
Is there use in there? Yeah, but there's use in, single family homes. There's uses in other, apartments and stuff like that. So to say that that's our problem areas, not for the drug, the whole town's a problem area.
The whole town is.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't mean that in a disparaging way.
Right, I understand that.
I just didn't know if, if you get a certain family moving in and then you get another family moving in that have maybe a relationship or the same kind of drug addictions, that you see an increased traffic to those houses, or, is there, I guess I'll come right, can somebody report that kind of activity? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
okay as far as coming forward and saying,
either
hey,
A, we might already know about her, we might already have an investigation going, or B, it might give us an information to say, oh, okay, we didn't know about that. We can do our best. I think we take a pretty aggressive approach on, drug dealing in our community, but we can't be everywhere all the time.
Right. Did your daughter, did she come out and tell you where she was getting the drugs from? Was she going into Worcester? Was she getting
Worcester.
them right in Spencer?
It's in Worcester.
Worcester,
The heroin.
Yeah.
The pills she was buying in Spencer.
really?
And I had given that information to Detective Murray a few years ago when I found out where she was getting them. But the heroin, as far as I know, it's in Worcester,
So
Maine South.
she would have to travel there, pick it up, come back.
Come back.
Obviously, you're not traveling in some of the best sections of Worcester
No,
either.
it's
you
Maine
know?
South usually, and it's everywhere on the street. You just have to walk down the street and say, you know, who's holding, and somebody will show up with it. It's everywhere.
And what we find in our investigations on dealing within our town, you know, they're small neighborhood dealers. They're going to go in city. They'll make their pickup for their few clients. Boom, boom, boom. It's gone. You know, we go in there if we're able to do an investigation and execute a search warrant. More times than not, we're not finding anything. We're finding the residue, or maybe, you know, the tools of the trade, but we're not finding the actual product because it's such a quick
It
turnaround.
moves that quick. Wow. Any idea what the status of drug use in our schools are? Do you guys get a handle on that as far as? I know probably not so much at Knox Trail, which, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that,
Right.
but I didn't know up in the high school if, I know you said the youngest that you've seen as far as heroin use was 17 years old, but I didn't know if there was.
Off the top of it, I don't work the day shift, so I'm not up in the schools a lot. I mean, I know there's an occasional marijuana find or something like that, and they'll handle it internally, and they'll complete a report and give it to us, so we're aware of what's going on.
Sharon, where you're, I want to say hands-on to this, is there local help that a parent can get or an addict can get
Well,
in this area that you've, either been associated with or your daughter has gone to, or that type of thing that you might be able to share with?
Well, they have AA meetings, and addicts can go to AA meetings. They have NA meetings too, which is Narcotics Anonymous. And for parents, they have the Al-Anon meetings. And there is one on Monday nights here in Spencer. I think it's at the Congregational Church, but I haven't been to it yet. I've been invited to go, and my Mondays have been really busy lately. But there is that, and as far as for the addicts themselves, there's no facility in Spencer. There is Detox, there's Spectrum in Westboro, AdCare in Worcester, that I know of, are the two that I know of right off the top of my head. And there are sober facilities in Worcester, but the beds, it's hard to find a bed. It's even hard to find a detox bed sometimes.
I wonder, is it first come, first serve, or
Yeah.
is it based upon how bad of an addict? I don't know how they're graded, but is it based upon maybe how it's first come, first serve?
First come, first serve.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough.
And they fill up in the winter. At this time of year, you see all the people that have been in the sober houses, the halfway houses, they're coming out now. They're leaving. The beds will start to open up because it's nice weather. But as soon as that bad weather hits, they fill up, and they're full all winter.
Gives them some place to stay.
Yeah.
So they use the sober house to
3 square meals a day.
3 square meals
Yeah.
a day, and they get to
Stay off the
they get to
streets.
stay off the streets, and they don't have to worry about it. And it's taking up bed space for parents and addicts that maybe really want to get clean.
Right.
Which is, I guess it's a double-edged sword. I can understand, these people wanting to get off the streets, but taking up bed space for some people that really want to get help, is an unfortunate thing. And I'm guessing they can't just kick these people out.
Well, if some of them test them, and if they test, they have a
Positive.
dirty urine, they're out. If they test positive, they're out. Some, not all of them test them, but some of the sober houses.
Must be state and federal funds, I would guess, that probably run that same thing. So
Yep.
they're probably feeling the same pinch as everybody else as far as,
Correct.
oh, well, you've got too many people there. We're going to take a couple away from you. So, unbelievable stories when it comes to that stuff. And I just, to sit and you deal with it every day, but just to sit and listen to a story like this, certainly opens my eyes up to, you know, a whole different level of understanding what's going on. And you know, we'll probably talk some more about this in some future shows, but I think I'm going to approach the school system, and we're in April now, and maybe for next year, maybe with a little bit of guidance, you know, we can get some police officers to come in, or yourself to come in and talk to these kids, or
Even if it's a one-day
Get
program.
some
or
addicts to
something
go
like-
in and talk to these
get
kids.
some recovered addicts.
Yeah, that's what they need. They need to see
Almost like a
the
scared
face
straight.
with the story. We did it in 8th grade a long time ago with Mr. Goodlight. He took us. They used to be a halfway house, believe it or not, at St. Joseph's Abbey, in that big white house up on the hill at St. Joseph's Abbey. And Mr. Goodlight took my 8th grade class to their. It was like a meeting, like an AA meeting that they had. We went a couple times up there, and this was in, I want to say 71, and there was heroin addicts there then. Back then, and they were the hippies, you know, the drugged out, crazy Charles Manson type hippies. That's what they looked like to me at the time.
Yep.
And that really, I would never put a needle in my arm. That scared me to death. You know, seeing these people and
Yeah, that's the other, just getting over the fear factor. I couldn't, you know, even people on that are diabetics and have to
right.
put. I couldn't. I don't know if I could. I guess maybe if it was going to help me live, yeah.
Right.
But to actually tie a rope around, I don't know if they still do that, but
And knowing that there's a chance you're going to overdose
Yeah,
each time you do it.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot.
but
you
I'm
know,
guessing at that point the drug has
Control.
the control. You know, because it's probably and you need that, and they obviously need that.
Yeah, they don't think about anything but doing drugs.
So maybe that's something to shoot for. Maybe I can get in touch with you. You know, maybe
Yep.
over the and Chief Darren and talk
Yeah,
to.
yeah, it would come down to his decision anyways. That's above my pay grade, but he's open to talking to anybody.
You know, and get maybe.
I know sorry to interrupt,
No, that's okay.
but I know in the past the sheriff's department has programs where they bring in inmates, and they also have a camera system where they'll take a picture of the child and they can progress it. If you were a drug user, that this is what, and I know they've done it here at the high school
Really?
within the past few years.
I've seen those mug shots of a drug user at, say, 18. They have a mug shot.
Yeah,
and then,
we can do that with our computers,
Yeah.
and you know, you bring in somebody's head, and you can see the
age-
degression as they go
what
along.
the drug
yeah.
does to you as the more you use or the longer you use it. I guess is what it is.
right.
Man, if that doesn't scare some of the kids, you know, listen. I guess it's a crapshoot no matter what. You know,
It is. You know, I never thought I would be sitting here telling you that my daughter's a heroin addict. I never imagined that when she was in high school. You know, she went to nursing. She got accepted to nursing school.
Where was she going?
She went to Worcester State.
That's a great
you know.
that's one of the best
She was
programs around.
an athlete in school. She was a cheerleader forever, and you know, nursing school. And I never would have dreamed it. It took me completely by surprise when it was unfolding in front of me, and it's taken me a long time to come to terms with it, and be able to even deal with it. You know, as a parent, you don't want to believe it.
Well, we've got a few minutes left. What do we got? About 3 minutes left, Aaron? Something like that. Okay. Real quick, what are her friends like? How have her friends accepted the addiction? Have the bad ones gone away? Are they still around?
No,
What about
her
friends from
good
school?
friends from school are still, they love her, and they've stuck by her. Some of her good friends have gone down the same path as her, and are battling their own addictions. A lot of them.
Have you formed any relationship with those parents of those?
Yeah, a lot of the parents I went to school with.
Right. And
You know, I'm a townie.
yeah.
You know, so yeah, and we talk about it, and you know, I can't stress enough that this is happening in this town, and it's happening to our athletes and our good kids. It's not something that's reserved for Great Brook Valley and Worcester. This is happening right here
Under our noses.
under our noses, and you know, the parents need to wake up. Really need to wake up.
Anything to add?
I just it comes down to us as parents. That's where that's our foundation for our kids. don't forget our kids, when they turn 18, they're still kids. 18 to 25, you're still going to be there. My daughter's 21. I still harp on her. You got to know where they're going to be, who they're hanging around with, and what they're up to do. You know, be interested in our kids. Don't forget about them. That's about all I can say. And if I can just quickly plug for anyone watching that the Spencer Police is going to be doing a car seat checkpoint this Saturday, 9 to 1 at our place. And for anyone who's in need of a car seat, I do have a limited amount of seats available free of charge.
The range of age for the car seats, we're talking infant
All the way
through
up to convertible seat. Yep.
Real quickly, we'll digress off of that. What's the magic age as far as when you get that toddler, that, you know, fifth grade, sixth grade? Is it weight? What's the actual?
I was fifth and sixth grade. Start talking to them.
Fifth and sixth grade.
Let them know.
Yeah.
Let
By
'em
high
know.
school, it's too late.
And you think you lose them already as far as that is concerned?
I think you can reel them back in. The hardest age is at junior high.
Yeah.
When I used to do the DARE program, it was funny. I would do in the springtime. I would do the fifth graders or sixth graders, and then the following fall I would do the junior high program, and it was amazing how much those kids change over that summer or over that year when they start, you know, wanting to be a young adult and all that. How impressionable they are, and that's where you got to concentrate, like you said, Knox Trail.
And
Well,
the peer pressure.
Yeah, I can listen. Everybody's had peer pressure, so I'd like to thank our two guests tonight. Certainly, this was an eye-opening experience for me. I'm hoping it was an eye-opening experience for all of our viewers and listeners. I wish we had a couple of telephone calls, but that's okay. If we can just help one parent or one kid or anything to change, you know, how we do things in this town, I'm all for it. Like I said, I'll follow up with the superintendent. I'll follow up with Chief Darren and see if we might not be able to do it this year, but maybe if we game plan something, we can do it for next year. You know. So thank you to Sergeant Befford and to Sharon Wood. How much time do we have left? A couple seconds. All right. Thanks for watching The Other Side, and we'll see you hopefully in 2 weeks. Have a good night.
Thanks for the invite.